Hey folks, welcome to Half and Half this Saturday morning. It's nice and warm, toasty maybe even at the Dharma Center here. But we have a brand new fan that's quite lovely and creating a little breeze. So I hope you're comfortable and ready to move where you are. We were thinking about last week, we did some of that oblique work, working with the side body a little more in balance. And this week, I was thinking about some upper body work, and those two things can be really connected. So, a lot of us are dealing with shoulders feeling tight, wrists maybe not feeling so good when you have to do upper body work like planks, maybe chest feeling tight, maybe neck feeling tight. All those things come up for people. Um, and one of the ways that this can not work so heavily, not be so tense, um, is to get a little more support from the upper abdominals. And specifically, when we talk about this connecting the ribs, that's actually your external obliques ish and internal obliques, but it's those obliques coming on to support, to give you a really strong anchor, a really strong base of support. And then when I get this strong base of support here, then I actually can move a little more freely in the arm and the shoulder joint. So if I don't have a strong base of support here, if I'm a little tipped out of alignment and I'm putting some stress on the back, then a lot of times I kind of pull the shoulders up out of the neck and they come forward, they come up a little bit. I support my upper body from my chest, which is not really the greatest, right? I want to feel the support go all the way down into my upper abdominals, into my ribs. I want my ribs to be supported on top of my pelvis to be on my thighs to be on my feet to be on the floor, or however I work my way down into the floor. So this is really important. This oblique work is really important in helping free up and work more functionally the movement around the shoulder, the muscles around the shoulder. And then when that's the case, there tends to be less pressure on the wrist as well. Now, wrists are tricky. You might be working everything perfectly and your wrists still bug you. But usually it's helpful. It's definitely a place to start. So let's start the way we did last week, which I heard was kind of a challenging way to start for some people. Um, I don't think it gets any less challenging if you do it later in the workout, so you might as well just do it now. It's just kind of a cool little challenging thing. So we'll start lying on your side, arm all the way flat if you can get it. The narrower your base of support, the more you have to, be very exactly aligned, and so we get better feedback when your base of support is narrower that way. But if it's not good on your shoulder, then choose another option. Take the arm a little forward, take the elbow in, whatever you need to do. But if you can get the fingers, the shoulders, the pelvis, the legs, and the feet all in one line, it's like we're on a balance beam on your side, right? You could imagine it kind of like that. You'd want to be just totally lined up, your knees just a little bit soft. And then, you may feel it right away that your ribs want to kind of jut forward. Mine do a little bit. And then my neck and my chest want to hold me together. My thighs want to hold me together. So ribs drawing in so the chest can open and relax a little more. It actually pulls a little bit on this pec muscle on the underneath side when I do that. I want to think of the underneath waist lifting just a little. It's a little bit of daylight coming through there. Pelvis lined up, it will tend to fall backwards. Bring it forward a little. Ribs coming back, all that stuff. Reach your opposite arm up towards the ceiling. And once it's up to the ceiling, let's maneuver the shoulder a little bit, however you want. Maybe a little up and down, maybe a little circular. But give yourself kind of a loosening up around the shoulder. Makes me rock a little bit when I do that. And then keep your arm reaching just a little up so your shoulder blade isn't hanging down onto your spine. Bring it up a little. And there are muscles on the shoulder blade that wrap around to the side of your ribs and then wrap right into your external oblique muscles. They're called the serratus anterior muscles. So when I do that little bit of lift in the shoulder blade, those muscles from the back of my shoulder blade to my ribs, those muscles engage, those serratus anterior muscles engage and feed into my obliques. See if you can find that. And then some awareness there as you start to take your arm a little forward, keeping the ribs in, keeping the pelvis lined up, knees a little soft, easy chest and neck. It's a lot of stuff to check in on. It's a long checklist. So we have the hips lined up, not letting the top hip fall backwards, ribs drawn in. And then we added that serratus anterior, letting the shoulder blade be just a little lifted, connecting into your ribs in the front. And then keeping everything together, we'll take your right hand onto your ribs. Legs, think of coming off the floor. Both legs, that moment where they just get a little light, but they're still really on the floor. Hang out in that moment. We're going to come back to this idea, sort of quality again, that feeling of starting to lift but not actually getting off the floor. And then from there, come off the floor, if you want, if you can, and lower back down. Sometimes I can't get off the floor. So, work plenty hard. Ribs in, pelvis lined up, engage, light on the floor but still touching, and then maybe off the floor. And back down. 2 more. Ribs go in a little more. Pelvis lined up. Last one, how are your knees doing? Can they be softer? Do they need to be softer? And lower down and relax everything. And come up to sitting. And let's do the other side. Put yourself sideways on your balance beam. It's a very low balance beam, hopefully. Hopefully you didn't decide to just get on your dining room table and do this exercise, but you're still on your mat. Soft knees. Relax your head and neck. Pelvis typically goes backwards, so bring it a little forward if you need to get hip over hip. Ribs drawn in the front. A little bit of daylight coming through in the underneath waist. And then take the arm up. Move your shoulder around a little bit. Just kind of feel what that's like. And especially that feeling, what's called retraction of the shoulder blade, which is letting it move towards the spine, and protraction, which is letting it move away from the spine, kind of pulling it up a little bit. So that movement right there. And then as you pull the shoulder blade up, that protraction, the serratus anterior muscles from the shoulder blade, wrap around, side ribs, right into the external obliques, right into your rib connection in the front. And then here we go, starting to float the arm a little forward. and back up. I'm not going very low. I think I went lower last week. Happens all the time. Some weeks it feels like everything's connected and aligned in a really particular way, and I go a little lower. And other weeks, I get all the feedback I need by moving just a little. It's a really different mindset that you're checking in and taking the exercise that your body needs that day. And in this kind of deep work, that's really a useful way to do it. And then hand comes to your rib cage. Ribs are in. We try that, both legs coming up until you're still touching the mat, but you're definitely light. And then maybe all the way off. I'm not sure I'm going to make it all the way off today. Maybe a little bit. There we go. And back down. And then take it again, reaching. Ribs are in, pelvis stays a little forward. And then maybe off the floor, but maybe not. Maybe just working with it on the floor. You could also put your hand on the floor if it just feels like you're not getting any range. Be fine. Just not putting a huge amount of weight there, but just a little bit of balance. And one more time. And down. And relax. Okay. That's kind of good. I think maybe it's just like you feel like you're going to fall so much, and then when you finish, you're just so happy that you didn't fall on your face. Gives you a little jolt. Um, so, so maybe you felt some of that connection of your shoulder blade around the ribs and into your abdominals. Maybe you felt that in that exercise. Maybe not. Maybe you were visualizing that. But we're just going to keep working with that. That's a real key Pilates concept, is how do you support your arms from your abdominals? How do you connect your arm into your center? I think it's super helpful. It was really helpful for me not feeling my wrist so much when I needed to do work on my hands. It was helpful for me not getting stuck in my elbows or my neck, any of those things. It's still helpful, but when I learned it, it was the most helpful because it changed everything. So, we do some version of this whenever you do something where you lift your arm and you keep your ribs in, we're doing some version of this, but we're just adding in this sense of how the shoulder blade, that serratus muscle, wraps around and into your ribs. We could go even from the tricep muscle comes on and then to the shoulder blade, and then that serratus muscle coming on, and then the obliques coming together. That pattern of working is really helpful. So we're going to take your hands behind your head. We're going to go onto your back. Knees bent and feet flat. And then all the time I tell you to bring your elbows up a little, right? So maybe you can feel when you let your elbows sink to the mat, your rib cage tends to lift up. Probably you've heard me say that a bunch because I tend to say that a bunch. And then as your elbows come up, it's easier to get your lower ribs to come down, right? So we know that the rib cage can drop as the elbows come up. But now feel the shoulder blades. So as your elbows go down, can you feel how you're kind of tight between your shoulder blades? And as your elbows go back, it's kind of pinching the shoulder blades together as the ribs go up. And then as the elbows come up off the mat and forward, your shoulder blades can get wider. So maybe you can feel that on your back there too. And so if we take that serratus idea, maybe you've already figured this out. Serratus anterior muscles coming around, pulling the shoulder blades a little wider, wrapping into the ribs. Tricep, wide shoulder blade serratus, ribs connecting together in the front. Now, once you have that connection, feel that really powerfully. That brings your head up and you look into your belly. Stay here. Exhale. See if you can feel wide blades, shoulder blades wrapping around to your ribs. Lower down. Hold that feeling. Going again. Exhale. Take a breath. Exhale into it a little more. And lower down. And then resting. Okay, so maybe a little bit, starting to feel that. So it's really a different thing than using your pec, using your chest to bring your elbow forward, right? I mean, these muscles sometimes come on, and that's okay, but it's very different to think of the back bringing your elbow forward, sort of lifting your elbow off the floor from underneath, from deep in your belly. That's very different than pulling the elbow up from your chest. And so that's the other piece of it. Once I get that support of serratus into obliques, lifting the elbows, I also have this opportunity to not work my chest so much. So that's part of what we're going for there. Now, let's do that same exercise again. And then if you want to, especially if you were here last week, think about that side body oblique feeling too. Remember how that was helpful. Thinking of how once we get all this connected, it connects all the way down into the pelvis through the side body. So here we go. Find your wide blades to lift the elbows, ribs connected, a little side body feeling as you bring your head up. And then back down. 3 more times. Exhale. The more I get all these things connected, the less my neck feels like it comes on. Hopefully you got some of that same effect. And once you get down this time, take a little break. And then bring yourself up to sitting. Okay, so let's see what that's like. Same sort of thing on your hands and knees. So hands right underneath your shoulders and knees under your hips. And I was talking about wrists earlier. Sometimes helping the wrists, sometimes taking your hands slightly forward of your shoulders can be a way to help the wrists that maybe you have or have not thought about before. It just asks the wrist to bend less. When my hands are right under my shoulders, I have to bend at the wrist more. So if part of the difficulty is tightness and pressure, sometimes having the hands a little forward can be helpful. So that might be one thing you can do. Now, sometimes people do it down on their forearms. Maybe make a fist. You might have strategies that you do. But this very first part hopefully feels okay just on your hands and knees. So a little softness in the elbows, and feel what it's like to round your spine, not to your biggest round shape, just kind of like halfway And then see if you can imagine and feel that shoulder blade feeling, and them coming around and into your ribs, wrapping into your ribs in the front. And then once you feel that, you might naturally kind of spontaneously bend a little more, but it's really coming from the connection of the back body into the ribs there in the front. And then come back to flat. And play with that a couple times. A halfway round spine, just get it started. Soft elbows, draw the shoulders into the ribs. Can you feel your hands press a little more as you do that, wherever that takes you? And then release it. And a couple more. I'm not dropping my head very low. I'm letting my head just follow the rest of the spine. But still my neck is relaxed. It's kind of a funny thing. I don't have to hang my head all the way down to feel pretty relaxed in my neck. And then release that and come off your hands. Okay, so can we use that in the one leg roll up and down? That feeling you just had of pulling that all together. So we'll go left leg out straight and right knee bent. And then, you could kind of simulate it a little bit. Like I was on my hands and knees. I did a little bit of a round spine. I let the shoulder blades come around into the ribs, which round me a little more. I've also got the low belly in it a little bit here. And then that's how I hold on to my leg. You might clasp your hands together, but try it. Right hand holding your leg and left hand on top of your right hand. This is going to make it harder to grip from your hands and your forearms and hopefully help you feel this rib connection holding you a little bit more. Now, it also might make the whole thing just a little harder to do, so know that that's the case. But sometimes it gets you connected into the right place and it actually makes it easier, so that's also a possibility. Now, just halfway back and then coming back up, working on that feeling. Wide blades wrap around into the ribs and that creates the curve in your spine. And you get to rock back a little. And as you come up, try to deepen into the back connection, not just your chest holding. Next time you get down there, hold it there for a moment. How's your neck? Can you let that release a little more? Last one. And then right leg forward, left knee bent. Find your roundness from the ribs. You have to tip your pelvis back too. See if you can feel your connection again. Now left hand holds your left leg with a flat palm, and right hand just on top of the left hand, as opposed to clasping. Now you really got to keep the palms open, and then ribs hold you. Serratus anterior holds you. Halfway down, easy neck and shoulders coming up. Rolling back. As your leg presses forward, let it bring you more into that connection in your upper abdominals, as opposed to leg presses forward and chest comes on. Two more. And last one. Don't roll into the cat. Good. So let's do, just again to review a little bit back into that side body oblique feeling, let's do some single leg circles and then we'll hand off to Scott. Yeah. So coming back onto your back, right knee comes in, organize your hips. Now leave the knee bent, and then let's use that hands and knees idea again. So push your hands up to the ceiling, right? Like you were on your hands and knees again. Now we're not going to round the spine, but do feel your shoulder blades wide, your ribs drawing together. See if you could feel your side body a little bit here. Now, keep all that as you place your arms on the floor with your elbows still a little bit. Now, my shoulders don't really touch the floor when I do all this and make all this connection, but my chest isn't gripping, right? So a lot of times we push the shoulders down to keep the chest from gripping. You could get your serratus and your obliques to come on without gripping your chest, and then your shoulders probably won't be on the floor. So that's just fine. Right leg floats up, and then just holding all that feeling as you circle the leg. Side body connected on the right side and the left side. Ribs connected. Shoulder blades wrapping around into the ribs. 2 more. And then in reverse, inhale, exhale. Last one. And then rest your right leg on the floor. Relax everything. Take the left leg in. Remember, you want to keep the waist long on the left side so we get the nice oblique support on both sides. Knee over hip on the left side. Set up your shoulder blade, rib, upper body connection. And then hands down to the floor. Left leg floats up. And then right into it. Inhale across. Exhale, circle. Inhale, exhale. Maybe you can start to feel all those little items on the checklist as a whole body feeling, right? Like your whole upper body has some integration. So you don't always have to think of every little item on the checklist. And then in reverse, inhale, exhale. And then relaxing that leg down. And take both knees into your chest. Bring yourself up to sitting. And then I think the best thing is just stay where you are because I never know where Scott's going to start. I'll pass it off and let him know. I should have him give me like an up or a down or something.
Up. Let's start off up on our feet. So standing comfortably. Take a moment to feel your feet upon the floor. And then just like trees in the yard or the forest, roots support the trunk. So almost without effort, lift up through the crown of your head. Now bring your left arm forward and let that shoulder blade slide around your rib cage a bit. And just like Colette demonstrated at the outset, imagine your arm originates from your upper abdominals. As you float it up, there's crazy cat chasing going on. And a few breaths here. And come on down. So I think the lower abdominals have a much better publicist than the upper abdominals. Pretty much everything I see in the fitness world is core, core, and everyone points to their lower belly. Lower belly is super important, don't get me wrong. But the upper abdominals I find are sort of underappreciated. So as Colette showed us, those lower ribs slightly drawing together. She's used the image of a shoelace before. So from those upper abdominals, now bring your right arm forward. Now you don't have to have your hand on your upper abdominals, but if you find it useful, go ahead and do so. Now let that shoulder blade wrap around your side ribs. Those of us who've done a lot of yoga, we would consider this wrong. Actually, this wrapping movement is physiologically indicated. So from your upper abdominals, float that arm up. And a few breaths here. And come on down. Feet down. Head up. Shoulder blades lightly back. That is so often, so readily overdone. Now the paradox is, how do we learn how to stand with the chest more open? Connect into the upper abdominals. Free up your shoulder blades. I see so many people trying to pin their shoulder blades in place. That almost never leads to improved posture. So let's take a look. Both arms forward. Let your shoulder blades wrap around your side ribs so that your chest sinks back a bit. And from your upper abdominals, with the next exhale, sweep both your arms up. And we'll take a few breaths here. Maybe you're already feeling that connection, tricep via serratus into upper abdominals. And then come on down. All right, now let's make our way to the floor. On the floor in hands and knees. And then slowly descend your elbows down, culminating with your elbows directly beneath your shoulders. So elbows beneath the shoulders in two directions, front, back, and side to side. So then see if you can keep your shoulders above your elbows, elbows beneath your shoulders as you lengthen your neck. Now see if you can keep your neck long, shoulders above elbows as you turn your toes under and then lift up. This is sometimes called elbow dog. Now let's take a few breaths here. Notice what happened to your elbows when you came up to elbow dog. Couple more breaths here. And then come on down. When you lifted to elbow dog, did you notice how your elbows kind of slid out? And or how your hands maybe came together? So this is a way that we can work directly with the serratus. And the serratus is the great integrator. The serratus anterior muscles connect your upper abdominals to your shoulder blades. So let's take a look at elbow dog again. Start off with your hands at about shoulder width apart. And you can probably see my hands are a little bit forward in front of me. Then descend both your elbows down. Now my body, my elbows want to go out as they come down. So already there's a bit of focus to land, elbows under shoulders. Now maybe you can see how my elbows are beneath my shoulders, front side to side, but not front to back. So I'm going to bring my whole torso forward, such that shoulders are over elbows. Now it's going to take a little bit of concentration and more than a little bit of muscular work to keep this arm, elbow, shoulder positioning as you lift up to elbow dog. So let's stay here for 5 breaths. And then come on down. Let's go from elbow dog to head down dog. Let's spend 5 breaths here. And with the next out breath, step your feet forward up to where your hands are. Reach your head forward. And then folding, let your head hang, let gravity naturally release your neck. And then mobilize your spine, roll up. All the way up. Arms down. Elbow dog. So we're working that particular arm placement. And that movement is called external arm rotation. External rotation. So let's take your left arm, externally rotate it, and then bring your arm forward. So when your arm is forward and your arm is externally rotating, notice how the tip of your elbow more faces toward the floor. So keep that arm rotation as you take your arm up. Now, because of particular tightness for a lot of people when their arm is overhead like this, the tip of the elbow faces toward the side. Rotate the arm so the tip of your elbow faces forward. And then bring that arm down. Right arm forward. Tip of your elbow facing down toward the floor. Feel the arm rotation that creates that alignment. Keep that arm rotation as you float the arm up. Easy or hard? Many people report that that's hard. It's not just a flexibility issue. There's oftentimes a strength component. And lowering that arm down. All right. Now, just like you're holding a basketball in front of you, I think a handful of you have held basketballs before. Then arm rotation, tips of your elbows face down toward the floor. That's called external arm rotation. Maintain that arm rotation as you lift the basketball up. And now see if you can maintain this arm rotation as you rotate your hands, palms facing forward. So this is the arm positioning for downward facing dog position. So now folding. Couple breaths here, let your head hang, let your shoulder blades wrap. Exhale, reach the crown of your head forward. And then with the in-breath, step back to dog pose. Let's take a few breaths here. We'll take a little bit of quiet time for you to explore that arm rotation we explored in standing. And then come on down. All right, so we're working serratus anterior, which is, in a sense, the bridge from your abdominals to your upper extremities. So we did a few elbow dogs to help access and tone that serratus muscle. And so now in downward facing dog pose, applying what we've worked on already. So to clarify terms, we have the tip of the elbow and the pit of the elbow, tip and pit. So with those definitions, let's come to hands and knees. On hands and knees, have the pits of your elbows face forward in front of you, and the tips of your elbows face back toward your thighs. Now we could leave it at this right here. And this is a variation of elbow dog, really good for building strength, body awareness. Now you ready for the fun part? Keep your arms, both of them rotating externally like they are. As you turn your toes under, and slowly make your way back to head down dog. Now if you're anything like me, your elbows want to flip to face toward a different direction. See if you can keep the pits of your elbows facing forward in front of you. And maybe you don't go back as far into dog pose. Let's take 3 breaths right here. And come on down. And all the way to your back. How was that? So it can challenge strength. That's a situation primarily in my body. And also can challenge flexibility. So now let's reprise some of what we worked on last week doing the crisscross. First step is interlace your hands. Bring your hands behind your head. Then move into a mini crunch. Use your arms to lift your head. Continue lifting your head to include your shoulders. And let's take a few breaths right here. Then bring both knees in. In a moment, what we're going to do is work on lifting the right shoulder up. Lift your right shoulder blade up. Notice how your right elbow comes toward the left knee. Maybe you tap, maybe you don't. And back to our version of the mini crunch. Now lift your left shoulder. Now make sure it's not your arm pulling your head, but that it's your obliques lifting your left shoulder blade up. And back to the version of mini crunch. First side again, use your belly muscles to lift your right shoulder blade up. Let what happens in your head, neck, and arm be a product of what your belly does. And back down. Second side, last one. And back in toward the middle. And then lowering down. All right. So we're going to do another mini crunch to reinforce that image of knitting your ribs, connecting your lower ribs together. Interlace your hands. Bring your hands behind your head. And we'll take the next few moments quietly for you to lift up into a mini crunch. Now, one of my favorite parts of the mini crunch is those lower ribs, the shoelace occurs automatically. That sense of tying your shoelaces, connecting the two halves of your lower ribs toward each other, toward your belly. And keeping that connectedness as you roll down. Then maintaining, continuing that connectedness as you take your arms up. So lightly rotating your arms such that your elbow tips more face toward your thigh. And keep that external rotation as you take the imaginary basketball toward that wall that's back behind you. Now, notice how those lower ribs tended to pop up. And that would be indicative of a disconnect of your abdominals and your upper extremities. That's going to put a lot more stress on your neck. So keeping your arms an expression of your abdominals, as you now rotate the palms of your hands to face up toward the ceiling. Dog pose, arm placement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, sweep both arms up and releasing your arms down. All right, let's go back to hands and knees. So on hands and knees, hands about shoulder width apart. Just like we did before, here's that arm rotation as you descend your elbows down, culminating with elbows beneath shoulders, both front to back and side to side. Then maintaining this arm placement as you move into elbow dog. And I'm going to hold here for kind of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come on down. All right, now same arm rotation, this time with your elbows up. So elbow tips rotate to face toward your thighs, rotate to face toward your thighs. Keep that rotation as you root your hands into the mat. Keep that hand connection, arm rotation as you move back to head down dog. And we'll take a few breaths here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come on down. And into seated. So in seated, simple cross leg position. Now if you find that you're kind of rounded like this right here, feel free to sit your butt up on something. Could be a blanket, could be a cushion. So now what we're going to do is do a spinal twist to the right. Bring your left hand across, right hand behind. And a few breaths here. And back in toward the middle. Twisting to the other side, right arm this time comes across, left hand behind. And back in toward the middle. So I wish we had a little bit more time to go into more details. When your arm is in front, we want that shoulder blade to wrap around. Even if a lot of yoga teachers say to the contrary, the physiology is we want that shoulder blade to wrap around. And then when you take the arm up overhead, it's not your neck supporting your arm, it's your abdominal supporting your arm. Far preferable. However, when your arm goes back behind you, it's the opposite arm rotation. So let's work with loosening up your shoulders a little bit in the interest of loosening up your neck. Left hand comes across, right hand comes back. Now this right hand, have your fingertips point forward in front of you. So as you turn, lightly draw both shoulder blades against your back And then that back arm, let that elbow relax more out toward the side. So now that arm rotates internally, inner spiral. So on the back arm, shoulder blade lightly against your back. At the same time, internal rotation in your arm. Couple more breaths here. And back in toward the middle. How's that? Second side. Right arm comes across, left hand comes behind. Make sure left hand fingertips point in front of you, not behind you, in front of you. So that hand placement is going to help nurture the inner arm spiral. So maintain that internal rotation as you very lightly draw that shoulder blade back. We'll take a few more breaths here. And come on back in toward the middle. All right. So now let's make sitting a little more comfortable. So if you're comfortable as you were, feel free to stay. If it would be more comfortable to sit up on a chair, feel free to do so. We're going to do some breathing exercises. Especially folks working with bone density. Deep breathing can be a really nice way to work with your rib cage and your spine. So let your shoulders be loose. Not too high. For sure, don't pull your shoulders down. So maybe you've gone fishing before with those little bobbers, red and white plastic bobbers. The way the bobbers float on top of the water. Let your shoulders float atop your ribs. Now a big deep inhale, let your rib cage rise up. Exhale. Let your shoulders float with your ribs. Inhale. Exhale. So one more deep breath. Let your shoulders freely rise and fall with your ribs. All right. Back to normal breathing. All right. That sure seemed to go quickly. Any comments, questions today?
I think we kind of got them all in the chat.
Great. So I think we covered them all in the chat. Super glad that we could share this time together, and we do this each Saturday. Please tell your friends, neighbors, colleagues, coworkers, strangers on the street that this is what we do, working with our bodies and our minds and their convergence. Thanks so much, and let's do this again, how about a week from today? Bye-bye.